Hi, Wyoming Traveler here today, and I am at Fort Harrod, Kentucky State Park. Now, Fort Harrod is a frontier fort. It's a little different than the frontier forts I have been visiting, because this frontier fort is not in the 1850s, but in 1774, when it was first established, 2 years before this country came about. Now, Fort Harrod was similar to the forts that were built here in Kentucky, such as Boonesborough, Bryan Station, and a few others. It was a fortified settlement. And we are going to go and visit the fort. This is an exact replication of the original fort that stood here. Approaching Fort Harrod, you can see it was a stockaded village, actually, with a blockhouse on each one of the four corners of the fort. Proceed along. Now, in each one of these structures, there is a different exhibit. I arrived at Fort Harrod about 30 minutes before its closure, so I didn't have a lot of time to visit and listen to all of the comments by the staff that was there at the fort. Center of the fort, the settlers would keep their livestock during the night to protect it. And you can see the cabins that were built inside the fort. Originally, all along the walls were cabins of the settlers.
The spring. The fort was built around the spring. Water was extremely important to the pioneers for drinking, cooking, washing, and putting out fires. The sign.
Now, Fort Harrod was fortunate because they had a spring within the fort. This was not true of Bryan Station, and we'll learn about that and what happened because their spring was outside the fort.
And an excellent place from which to stage a surprise attack. You can enter the cane and get a feel for how dense.
Of course, the actual Fort Harrod did not have a canebrake area in it. The one here in the fort is to demonstrate or give visitors an idea of what the cane brakes were like and how thick they were. As in all forts, the safety of the powder was all important, both to keep it dry and safe, and in the event of an accident, not disrupt or harm any of the people who lived around it. Now, this was the fort's blacksmith shop. Blacksmith was essential to pioneer life. Not only did they make various iron utensils that were needed, but they would also repair any. Now, what was it like living in Fort Harrod in the 1770s? We'll find out. Here is a typical cabin, one room.
The Mark McGowan cabin. This cabin, the home of Mark McGowan and his bride Betsy Dunn McGowan, depicts the average home of an American citizen of the Revolutionary War period.
The rugs, there's dish towels in the gift shop that were made here, as well as table warmers. So Anne McGinty, she was kind of the queen bee here, you might say. She knew Daniel Boone, Simon Kenton, George Rogers Clark, they all in and out of this. Taverns, inns, and ordinaries were all the same thing.
Thank you.
Now up here would have been sleeping quarters for people who were visiting the area, as well as for the people who lived here. See beds. Okay, privacy was not something that the people on the frontier had. Not only did the people sleep in the same room, but very often shared the same bed, even with strangers.
Welcome to the William Poe cabin. William Poe, who was the cousin and husband of the famous Anne McGinty, was the handyman at Harrod's Fort. He made noggins, biggins, trenchers, bowls, paddles, chairs, spinning wheels, and looms that kept his wife and the other women busy. But he did not confine his skills to their needs. He also made the first plow that turned the first bluegrass. The Bryan Station cabin. Revolutionary War engagements took place in all the pioneer forts, but one of the most thrilling of these engagements took place at Bryan Station, near Lexington, which was made memorable by the heroism of the women. This cabin is a memorial to those heroic women. In the month of August 1782, an army of 5, although surprised, prompt measures were taken to repel the enemy. By the daring action of the women, the fort was supplied with water from a neighboring spring.
The spring was outside the fort at Bryan Station, and the women, at great risk to themselves, ventured out to acquire water for the men and the rest of the people there in the fort during the siege.
Two of the garrisons slipped through the enemy's lines and gave the alarm to neighboring stations.
This was the meeting house. Also served as church, or any time they needed a large gathering for the settlers here at the fort. What cabin was this?
You're at the George Rogers Clark blockhouse. George Rogers Clark was stationed here before the Revolutionary War with his men. They were here to protect the fort and the pioneers as they're going out and settling on their land. And they would actually patrol the area, and if there was danger, they'd relay a message back and have a horn blower blow a horn. So that's how they warned people of danger back then, blowing horns, and there it is. The one they used here, the distress horn. It doesn't work and parts are missing, but it's one of the few pieces we have.
It was here at Fort Harrod that George Rogers Clark planned his expedition into the area north of the Ohio River to capture the British forts that were located in what is today Illinois and Indiana.
Rogers Clark, of Revolutionary War fame, stayed in the blockhouse when he was in the area. They don't know exactly which blockhouse, and of course all of them are reconstructed. So, but this is the idea of what it was like when Clark stayed here.
In 1777, Fort Harrod, along with Fort Boonesborough and Bryan Station and several of the other forts in Kentucky, withstood numerous Indian attacks and sieges. I hope you enjoyed this video. If so, please press the like button and subscribe to see other videos about America's past. I appreciate you watching. Thanks.